Morning, everyone. I want to start this morning by thanking first my colleagues, Jennifer Cascio and Nicholas Wainwright, both colleagues of mine here at Gould, Greco, and Hensley, headquartered in Chicago, but practicing nationwide, especially in the state of Michigan. I want to thank the reporters that are here today and those that are online virtually. But most importantly, I want to thank our clients, 14 incredibly brave women who have come forward to hold Sinai-Grace Hospital accountable. These 14 women had their lives permanently altered by a healthcare system who chose to put their public image and their profits over their patients' safety and bodily integrity. For months, we have heard about the criminal exploits of this Sinai-Grace nurse. For months, we have heard about the lawsuits arising from those exploits. And for months, we have heard about Sinai-Grace's response, claiming that they did everything that they could to remove this individual as soon as they had knowledge of his criminal behavior. Sinai-Grace has not told the full story. What we know, based on our investigation, based on the hospital's own documents, signed by the criminal nurse himself, is that in April 2024, just months into his work there, Sinai-Grace was put on notice. They were put on notice that they had a predator working on their staff, seeing patients, being left alone with patients, and given the ability to assault those patients in their most vulnerable state. Jane Doe 101 was one of those patients. In April 2024, Sinai-Grace medical record indicates Jane Doe complained of this nurse specifically that the nurse requested she remove her clothing before a simple EKG procedure. The record indicates that she not only refused this request, but that she then demanded a female nurse going forward. This was a Sinai-Grace record. In their possession, in their system, in their control, spelling out in black and white that their nurse was preying on patients, making disgusting, sexually charged requests inside Sinai-Grace Hospital under the care of Sinai-Grace doctors before finally assaulting Sinai-Grace patients over a year before he was arrested. And we've all seen medical records. Each visit from a nurse, an orderly, an attending, lists out each and every visit that previously predated that. You can imagine in this medical record how many times this specific remark, this specific entry showed up over and over and over again. Any staff member, from doctor to nurse to technician, that spent even a second looking at these records would have seen the note in question. It was either glanced over and carelessly missed, or it was seen and deliberately ignored. Under either circumstance, Sinai-Grace is responsible for violating the law. Under either circumstance, this nurse was allowed to continue working there for over a year after, seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of patients. And this is just the beginning. This is the first piece of evidence before we even engage in the litigation or discovery process. Evidence demonstrating that Sinai-Grace knew or should have known what was happening with its nurses, within its walls, and under its roof. And it's for this reason that we filed this lawsuit, not just on behalf of Jane Doe 101, but on behalf of her and 13 other incredibly brave individuals who saw this same nurse at the same hospital and were subjected to similar abuse, most of them seen after the note that was made in April 2024. I'm going to step aside for a moment and allow my partner, Jennifer Cascio, to talk about the individual nature of these lawsuits and the damages that we're seeking.
So our client's bravery in reporting this inappropriate, abusive behavior, essentially gave the hospital a crystal ball to foresee the following assaults that occurred on behalf of our other clients. In fact, on behalf of likely hundreds more. The hospital's failure to take immediate action following these reports is direct evidence of the hospital's complicit role in abusing these women. The message that the hospital sent to our clients and other similarly situated women is that they don't care about the safety of our patients and that these assaults are essentially the price of doing business. Having this type of messaging sent to women from a healthcare provider, an entity in which they are in a position of power and ultimately a position of ensuring their patients can trust them, will in fact become so ingrained in these women that a lifetime of therapy may not undo the harm that is caused. The damages that we're seeking on behalf of these women are for past mental distress, emotional distress, the physical injuries that many of these women suffered from these assaults, as well as the future therapy, the future emotional distress that these women will likely endure well into the future, if not permanently. The emotional distress and mental anguish that these women will have to face will undoubtedly interfere with all aspects of their life. It will interfere with their personal relationships, how they parent, how they exist in romantic relationships. It will undoubtedly impact their work. Many of these women may not be able to continue in their roles, and Sinai-Grace will be responsible for all of the impacts that these women will face. These women will continue to face mental health disorders like post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and depression. The humiliation and shame that comes from enduring these types of assaults and having a hospital system blatantly ignore the reports of these and allow them to continue will give these women the insurmountable task of essentially lifting a 1,000-pound weight off their chest. When a hospital system like Sinai-Grace ignores such egregious acts of assault, it really begs the question as to whether any patient, man, woman, or child, is truly safe in their facilities. We believe there's far more survivors than we initially represent, and we encourage all survivors to come forward and to hold Sinai-Grace accountable.
Before we close here today, I want to emphasize the importance of these cases, especially in the state of Michigan. Time and again, we have seen the institutions in this state fail the people they are fundamentally designed to protect. Whether it's the University of Michigan failing to protect its student athletes, whether it's Michigan State University failing to protect its student athletes, whether it's Sinai-Grace or other healthcare networks throughout the state failing to protect its patients, these institutions have an obligation to protect and preserve the sanctity of the experiences those on their campuses and within their facilities seek to enjoy. These institutions and so many others have an obligation to protect those under its care and to prevent this kind of abuse from ever happening. Like anyone seeing a medical professional or going to a hospital, these women place their trust in Sinai-Grace to cure them, to diagnose them, to protect them. In simplest terms, they trusted Sinai-Grace to take care of them. But the hospital failed them. The consequences are catastrophic, and they are permanent. This case and cases like this serve as a reminder of the importance of access to justice for survivors of sexual abuse. It's a reminder that our court systems serve as a platform and a forum for their voice to be heard. That must always be the case. Now, these women have come forward here today, and they have come forward together to ensure that justice is done. Now, that may have began with the prosecution of the nurse criminally, but it ends with the hospital taking about accountability for its failures and indifference civilly. We will leave no stone unturned in this investigation and in these lawsuits, and we look forward to working with other attorneys around the state of Michigan that also represent survivors of Sinai-Grace. Thank you so much.